Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Keith Pascal. Today we're going to talk about the UCMDB integration, specifically UCMDB to UCMDB, and the first topic we'll talk about is autocomplete reconciliation. So first we need to know, what is autocomplete reconciliation? Well, it simplifies the task of pushing data from one system to another. It allows users to create incomplete or poorly qualified TQLs, and it allows some of the out-of-the-box TQLs to work correctly. But it does slow down the integration speed, and it pushes an unknown number of CIs. So you may get a lot more CIs pushed than you anticipated. To put it graphically, if I'm pushing from system A to system B, this system, FTC06 UCM02, system B is going to reply with, I need more information than just this node to insert that node. System A then pushes the complete topology of the node with all of its reconciliation information that's needed over to system B. That's with autocomplete reconciliation. Without autocomplete reconciliation, you would need to create a TQL that was fully qualified and push over all of the reconciliation attributes that are needed from system A to system B. Now let's take a look at a comparison of speed. With autocomplete turned on, created a fairly poor TQL, sent over CIs, set the maximum bulk size only at 1,000. The average bulk size was 42,237 CIs. There were a total of 45 bulks sent in 11 hours, 48 minutes, and 34 seconds, and it only completed 29% of the nodes before timing out. I had to increase many fuses in order to get this to run. Now, without autocomplete turned on, I ran the same, from the same database, I ran and pushed the same information. That ran in 56 minutes and 27 seconds, 130 bulks, with an average bulk size of 3,128 CIs. That was with the bulk size set back to the default 4,000. So you can see that with autocomplete reconciliation, we have much less control, and the speed of the integration is greatly impacted. So how do I change autocomplete reconciliation so that it's turned off? Well, in the Integration Studio, you can right-click the integration point, select Go to Adapter, and then in the Adapter Management, right-click the CMDB 10X adapter and select Edit Adapter Source. That's going to bring up an XML page. Then search in that XML page for the word autocomplete and modify it so that it says push.autocomplete.reconciliation false. And that is the value in XML that we're going to use. Save and reload the adapter to enforce the change. And then autocomplete reconciliation is disabled. Now, the first TQL that you'll need to create is a node identification TQL. All right, that is a TQL that has the specific CI type of node with the IP addresses and interfaces. For the node, you need to make sure you're adding all of the reconciliation attributes. This is some of the attributes used for reconciliation, but you may need more depending on the version of UCMDB you're running. For example, VM ID was recently added as a global identifier, so you would want to add that. For the IP address, use the attributes also used for reconciliation. Okay? Global ID, name, UCMDB routing domain, IP lease time, IP address property. For interfaces, we'll need the global ID and the MAC address at a minimum, but you probably want to also select all of the interface attributes. Now, in all of these, if you have any attributes that you want to push over from system A to system B that are custom attributes, make sure that they exist in the target environment, otherwise the push will fail. So if you had created, for example, a custom attribute called MF_production status, and maybe that has values of of production, test, dev, QA for any individual node CI, then you would want to make sure that those existed on the target environment as well, and then you could push those. One note of warning here is that the node CI contains many sub CIs. There's a bunch of CIs that are underneath node that are in the tree that do not use the same reconciliation information. You will want to exclude those from this query and build a separate node identification query for those things. For example, cluster resource group, those do not use the same reconciliation rule that node uses. So you would want to exclude anything under node that does not use the node identification rule. For more information, there is a class on creating good TQLs. Now, once you've created the node TQL, then you need to create any other specific TQLs that you want to run. In this case, I want to also push running software, right? So I want to create a TQL with a node, again, with the subtypes excluded that we had excluded in the previous TQL, and whatever running software. But this time, for a node, we don't need to push any additional information except the global ID. For running software, you would want to push all of the attributes used for reconciliation. For example, discovered product name, IP service endpoints if they are required by your data, global ID, and then any additional attributes that are important on the target system, right? And make sure those exist on both systems. Then any subsequent TQLs. For example, on the TQL on the right-hand side, I'm using a location, a file system, and a CPU. So once again, for the node infrastructure elements, you're going to only use the global ID for the node. And again, you're going to restrict the CI types to all of those that use the node reconciliation rule that were pushed previously. For then the CPU, you need all of the attributes used for reconciliation, and the same goes for location and file system. Again, if there are any additional attributes that you have added to your environment, make sure they exist in the target. One thing that's commonly asked is, should I use this pushback IDs for push? What does that even mean? Well, essentially, if the target system is the global ID generator and the source system, usually UCMDB, is not a global ID generator, then when you push data over to that target, you're going to want to get back the global ID that it used to insert those CIs so that your global IDs are synchronized. All right, so that is why you would use the pushback IDs for push. That's why you would set that to true or to enabled. Do not set this to enabled if your target is not the global ID generator. In a standard setup, UCMDB itself should be the global ID generator because it is controlling the IDs that come from things like NNM or third-party integrations or discovery, and then pushing that data to another system, say OpsBridge or Service Manager or SMAX. And then OpsBridge and SMAX would have the same global IDs referring to the same CIs. And so when in OpsBridge you wanted to create an incident, you would have the global ID already, and SMAX would know that same system by its same global ID. Make sure that the order of the push jobs is set in the integration point, right? And you can set them up in the same integration job, and one will complete, and then the other will start, and then the next, and then the next. The TQL that pushes the nodes must be run first. You have to have the nodes there before you push the running software or the additional infrastructure elements. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.